It's normal for your husband to cheat, right? Wrong. Well, guys, I have a story today that's going to make your gut turn. Why do I say that? Because this isn't the average cheating story. It involves a couple and somebody else that comes into the picture, and you're just simply not going to believe that this could possibly happen. But oh boy, it happens. Hey there, this is Ellie. Let me cut to the chase. Am I the only one who finds it bizarre that my husband and his female cousin are so close? I had my suspicions right from the start, but honestly, I never thought there was anything substantial to worry about. You know, those suspicions were not exactly screaming red flags, if you catch what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's normal for your husband's siblings to be tight-knit, right? If they're not, well, that's when you start questioning whether you picked the right side of the family feud or not. As they say, we'll be the ultimate judge of that. Unfortunately, I find myself in this weird limbo where I cannot for the life of me figure out where I stand. What is even more unfortunate is my inability to wrap my head around the whole situation. So, after you have read this post, let me know. Would you be concerned if your husband's cousin suddenly moved in, bringing their peculiar brand of closeness with them? I swear, it's bizarre to a whole new level. Or am I just being overly sensitive? Let me know your thoughts. So, Mark's cousin Sana has made a return. Mark and I have been remarried for 14 years now, and we have a child, and I will not mention our little one's name because I don't think it's fair to drag them into this post, which might just be the result of my misguided gut feeling. So, 3 days ago, Sana showed up at our door out of the blue and asked if she could crash at our place for a while. Honestly, I was not keen on the idea, but Mark, ever the agreeable soul when it comes to her, welcomed her with open arms. His reasoning, it's just for a few days, we can handle it, he said. And now I'm worried. Let me quickly fill you in on why I'm feeling this way and what's been bothering me as of lately. Here we go. Ever wondered about your cousin from your dad's side? It's one of those suspicions where either you're close or you're not. If you're tight, you might spill some of your deepest secrets during your occasional meetups or phone calls. If not, being around them could feel awkward as all get out. But no matter which camp you fall into, there's a limit to how close you can get, right? Growing up, you realize there's boundaries for a reason. It's just natural, is it not? Well, here's where things get seriously weird. My husband and his cousin from his dad's side, trust me, it's not your run-of-the-mill strange. They don't just greet each other, they practically kiss at the corner of each other's mouth. Still not really weird enough, right? Hold on. They hug each other as if, well, they're attempting to drain each other's souls. Still not convinced? Yeah, I understand. Well, brace yourself. Sana, Mark's cousin, sits on his lap. Even now? Yeah. It's beyond bizarre. It's downright unsettling, and it does not add up. No sensible family member would ever behave like that, and yet here we are. But they do. They almost always do that, and it does not matter who's around. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, isn't it? Every time Mark and Sana engage in their odd displays of affection, they brush it off as some kind of sibling quirk. But wait, there's more to the story. Let me quickly run you through my concerns. I'll keep it concise, I promise, and I'll fill you in on what's bothering me right now. Flashback to 14 years ago when Mark and I tied the knot. Back then, Sana was already remarkably close to him, and at first I found it endearing. Almost heartwarming. I mean, who would not crave harmonious relationships during, well, a stringy, rocky one with your parents, right? But then, things took a turn for the weird, or maybe I just started paying closer attention. Honestly, I can't be sure. What really baffled me was that Mark did not share the same level of closeness with his own siblings. Sure, they were amicable, but not overly so, and when they met, it was a casual handshake or a light hug, and that was that. Friendly, but not overly friendly. Oddly enough, nobody seemed to bother by Mark and Sana's tight bond, so I just brushed it off too. Little did I know things were about to get a whole lot stranger. The silence surrounding their closeness made me hesitate to bringing up my concerns. That's until the day I witnessed them greeting each other with those strange kisses at the corner of their mouth. I mean, I was right there, yet Sana had not given me a fraction of that affection. Call it jealousy, whatever, but it bothered me deeply. She barely hugged me while practically planting one on my husband's mouth. To add to the weirdness, we've known each other for over 3 years at this point. You would think that we would have enough time to bond, especially given the countless random weekly holidays that she spent at our place, right? When she left, I could not hold it any longer. I confronted Mark about it, and his response was as predictable as ever. They'd always been close, and this is why they behaved in the way, and I told him I did not like it. It did not make sense to me. He stared at me strangely for a moment, then erupted asking if I wanted to destroy his relationship with his cousin over some trivial jealousy. Seriously? I just wanted him to understand how uncomfortable it made me feel. Just like it would make anyone else feel, but yeah, whatever. We did not talk about it for a while until he finally apologized the next day. The whole situation left me feeling frustrated and confused. After the incident, they refrained from their usual displays of affection. For a while, sure, Sana shot me some dirty looks for an extended period, but things seemed to settle down. I got busy with raising our child and my job, gradually paying less attention to the whole ordeal. I thought maybe it was just a bizarre phase that had finally passed, but then, one day, I saw something that made my stomach churn. Mark, he had his hand around Sana's waist. To put it plainly, I did not like what I was seeing. It was not jealousy, I was just utterly confused. I decided to confide in my mother-in-law. The first time that we had talked about it, I explained what I had observed, hoping for some clarity. To my surprise, she admitted feeling weird about it too, but she quickly added Sana was a bit sensitive. Incredulously, I asked her to explain. She revealed a shocking piece of information that years ago, before I've even come to know of Mark, Sana had run away with her boyfriend of 3 years. Tragically, he cheated on her, leaving her traumatized, and from that day forward, when Mark was just 19, he chose to stay close to her. Sana never entered another relationship but clung to my husband. She was essentially touch-starved and had picked my husband as her surrogate partner. Now tell me this. How was I not supposed to find this entire situation beyond weird? I mean, it's downright bizarre. The rest of the family found it strange how their relationship had become so uncomfortable and toxic, but every time Mark staunchly defended it. Eventually, everybody stopped pointing it out, but I could not just let it slide. Ever since I discovered the truth, I decided to limit her stay at our place, not letting her linger for more than a week at a time. And now, here she is again, not that she ever truly left, but this time she seems to have returned with a purpose. She claims to have conned by a group of friends, a case involving money. Supposedly she needs funds, but not only to support a project that she's been working on for years, but also to build a strong legal case against these so-called fraudulent friends. I've never been fond of her, so I was naturally skeptical, and I bluntly told her that she should have shared this from the comfort of her own home. After all, we do live in a digital age. That's when she dropped another absolute bombshell on me. She said that she's lost her home. Frankly, I found that hard to believe. I mean, on one hand, I remained unmoved, but Mark, oh boy. Mark melted like ice cream in a tropical country. He practically begged her to explain the situation. According to her, she had not paid rent for the last 3 months. When her landlord demanded the payment, she claimed she had nothing. So he kicked her out. With nowhere else to go, she came to us for help, and honestly, the only place she needed to seek help was a therapist's office. I swear, it all sounded so fake to me. When I witnessed Mark's fervent response, I decided to take a stand. I told Sana that she should go back, and I would cover her rent for the next 10 months, but instead of support, I was met with Mark's irritation. He could not fathom why I was so resistant to understanding his cousin's situation, insisted that she needed our help and support, so I argued back, saying she could find assistance elsewhere, plus our son had been unwell for a while now. Should our attention not be focused on him? In my mind, it made perfect sense. It was a valid point, however, it did not sit well with them. In response, Sana began shedding what seemed to be incredibly fake tears, yet Mark immediately fell for it. He embraced her intimately as a lover would. Then he reassured her that we would discuss the financial matters the next day, encouraging her to rest. Giving me an angry look, he escorted her to the spare bedroom, where he brought her dinner and even ate with her in there. By the time he returned, it was already 10 at night, and he briefly inquired about our son's health, then informed me that he was upset with me for making Sana cry before going to sleep. The next morning, I contacted my in-laws, hoping they might shed a bit of light on Sana's, financial situation. To my disappointment, they claimed to know nothing. They promised to inquire further, but the waiting was draining me, leaving me feeling utterly frustrated. My current concern, it revolves around a recent development. In the last paragraph, I mentioned that Mark intended to discuss the situation with me before making any significant financial decisions. However, just yesterday, I noticed a notification on his phone from the bank indicating a debit of $1,000. Now, that's a substantial amount, and as far as I can recall, we did not have any urgent financial needs except for my son's hospital visit. When I confronted Mark, he hesitantly admitted that he's given the money to Sana. Naturally, I asked him why, to which he replied, because Sana needs it. I knew pressing the issue would lead to more major arguments, so I tried to stay calm. He didn't say anything further either. To add to my concern, this morning he transferred another $1,500 to her account. What on earth does she need that much money for? It's been 3 days since she's arrived, and there's no indication of her planning to leave. I'm starting to grow increasingly worried, and I fear the longer she stays, the more Mark's bank account will be drained. This has to be cause for concern, right? I just can't shake off the feeling that something is not right. Top comments from the original post. Comment number 1. Wow, this post is mind-blowing, but Ellie, I still don't think that you're able to handle this all really well. Something is clearly wrong, and it's not just about the money. Mark's behavior is so suspicious, and Sana's manipulative tactics are off the charts. My advice? Make some serious boundaries, Ellie. Kick Sana out ASAP. Sit Mark down for a heart-to-heart, and consider therapy to sort out this family mess. Stay strong, girl. Comment number 2. The funniest thing is that OP already knows what's up, and she's still allowing Sana on her own. It's literally self-sabotage, woman. You already know their relationship is weird and sexual as heck. So why would you even allow them to be so close? That's a major duck up from your side. I'm so sorry that you feel like this. Anyways, make sure you kick her out. If not, there's a good chance something's going on between them, aka they're cheating on you. I would personally never allow my husband to be so close to his cousin to make it weird for me. That's a major red flag. Ew. Update number 1. Alright, you guys were spot on, but now I'm past talking. I need a way to trap them and unleash my revenge because clearly words don't cut it with these two. I've stumbled upon something so devastating, and I'm pretty sure we all saw it coming, but sensing something wrong might happen, and seeing it unfold is entirely different story, requiring different responses. In my case, I have every right to retaliate in whatever way I see fit. You see, sure, my actions might be fueled by your responses. The crazier you get, the wilder I will go after them. It's almost like entertainment, isn't it? Especially considering how much they seem to be enjoying themselves. Let me spill the beans on what was happening with this fiery reaction from me. So, the same evening I made that post in return from my job after a long day work, my sick son came to me and in a shocking voice asked if I had just returned. I was confused, but I told him that was the case, and he told me that he's been sleeping because his fever started acting up again, and because he was constantly going in and out of sleep, he did not have much energy to go check up on things except once. I wasn't sure where he was going with this. Mark and Sana were not at home, so I decided to cook something for him because he clearly looked famished. I was angry at Mark, but decided to deal with him later. Anyways, as I cooked his food, my son informed me that the reason he was surprised that I've just come from the office was because there's a lot of giggling and screaming from my room. He thought it was Mark and I sitting there, so he went to check in for some help. So the door however, was locked, and he tried to call for help, but nobody answered. There was only screaming and crying. Well, yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. And I was both embarrassed about this conversation that we were having and furious about what it seemed to imply. When he got tired, he returned to his room and fell asleep again, and that's exactly why he was so surprised to see me in just a few hours later from work. I already knew what happened. I was shaking with anger and hurt, but I did not express anything of that kind in front of my son. I fed him dinner, gave him medicine, and helped him sleep again, and I waited for Mark. They came almost at the same time, and I wanted to ask about the dirty sheet in the laundry, but I swear to God, some fear gripped me and I could not speak a word. TLDR. I think my son just informed me that my husband's been sleeping with his cousin and cheating on me, and now I'm too scared to talk about it, only for him to confirm it. I guess you can understand this fear to some level. So, the next time I saw something substantial was just 2 days after that. I saw them in the kitchen together, and they were at a distance from each other, and there's nothing to be suspicious about, honestly. I just returned from work, so seeing them working together was surprising to me, because neither of the two had bothered helping me a lot with cooking stuff since she started living with us. Remember, there was nothing suspicious about the way that they were acting around each other, but I knew the truth, so I was hyper aware of everything. Mark saw me and told me to get ready because they were cooking some fancy dishes. Well, I was suspicious, but not too much. I did not want to play a victim, so I didn't even cry. I took my bath, and for the first time witnessed the moment that would change my arc and their lives forever. Guys, here's how it went. I walked out of the bathroom and barely made a noise. My son was sleeping and recovered from his fever, and since I made no noise, clearly it seemed like an opportunity for Mark and Sonia, because I as noiselessly walked into the room as possible, and I saw them kissing in the kitchen. This time I was not paralyzed with fear, but with pure anger, and I can try 1,000,000 times, but I will not be able to express what kind of disgust and anger I felt at the sight of that. They were siblings, for duck's sake. I wanted to either vomit or kill them both, and instead of doing any of that, I stepped back away from their view, and then announced my presence with a little cough. Even though I did not look up at how they reacted, the noises made their clothes and made it obvious that they just separated from each other. But I did nothing. I said nothing. My anger was so loud that I'd silently decided that they would not get away with just a little confrontation with me. I'm going to make it very bad for them. So here I am, and I already have an idea of what I'm going to do, but I can take some suggestions and advice. I'm so angry right now that I'm pretty sure I'm not thinking with the same mind I need to. All I want right now is revenge, something that they will remember for the rest of their worthless lives. Update number 2. Sometimes, as I was planning my revenge, I wondered how long that they could have been at it. It was pretty obvious that they've been close for a very long time. What was the time my mother-in-law said that she was leaving behind her boyfriend? Yeah, so over 2 decades. There's a very good chance that my husband's been keeping this crap on the down low with his cousin for 2 decades. Even before our marriage and well into it. It's a wonder that I've not heard of any other her kids. Clearly, they've done their best to keep it to themselves, and the fact that they've continued this to this day is a thing to admire, honestly. I'm being sarcastic if you can't tell. What bothers me, other than that, of course, his family's ignorance about this thing, how could they not know something was up? Anyways, as it happened, I decided on what to do. It was not only me who would confront him about his strange relationship with his cousin, but the entire family, and to that, we would have to catch them in the act. Waiting for it to happen was, I'm going to be honest, very weird. It was like I was waiting for the final act that would end my 14 years of marriage. I could not directly ask Son to keep that in mind, so that I had to just be aware and cautious. I had to catch them in the act, and not alone, but with the rest of his family, and so I did. It was 8 days after my final post. I was at work with almost the evening time. Then I received a call from my son, and he said he had just returned from his friend's place and they were again having some noises from the room. This time it was Sonia, not mine, and I was embarrassed to talk about the same things with him again, but he asked me where I was, and I answered that I was at work. He asked me to come home very quickly, and I did just that. On my way, I called my in-laws and Mark's siblings, and we all live about 15 minutes at most from each other, so most of them arrived as I did, and I thought it was just going to be them as my plan, but my son had other plans. Now, because he has got so involved with this entire affair, let me introduce him to you. Ryan. He's 13. Ryan had not only called his paternal grandparents and his uncles and aunts, but other family members as well. At least the ones who lived near us in driving distance, and by the time I arrived there was a huge group of 11 people waiting to see the fallout of Mark and Sonia. The fall from grace and all, and you can say Mark and Sonia were still at it. I had the spare key in my hand, and we had asked Ryan to leave the place for now, and my ever-dutiful son did just that. I opened the door and voila! Caught them right in the ducking act. It took them seconds to understand the gravity of the situation that they were in, but when they did, they immediately tried to cover themselves. It was useless, though, because my camera had already left the place ashamed out of their senses, followed by the other family members, and lastly, Mark's parents, who looked so utterly mortified and embarrassed that I cannot even express their faces. I stood there, though, with the camera still in my hand, and the fact that my 13-year-old son had found them like that boiled my blood. Mark had not only been cheating on me, but his ducking cousin for however long, but he had just revealed his true colors to his son in the worst way possible. If Ryan grows up to be a horrible person, I know who I will hunt for sports for the rest of my life. When Mark stood up and said, "Ellie, I can explain," I slammed the door on his face. Then I sat next to the rest of the family members. As we waited for them to come out of the room, I replayed the video on my phone several times, and others did not even bother telling me to stop. They were all in disbelief, and when I got bored of watching my husband cheat on me 20 times, I decided to write this update. So there you are, guys, a real-life update. If it were a reality show and I was a contestant, you probably would have watched a messy situation right now. But you can let your imagination do wonders. We're still waiting for them to come out of the room. Let's see how it goes. Update number 3. The first thing Mark's dad asked him was how long it's been going on. He asked them both to sit down, and they sat like reprimanded children. Mark hesitantly answered 8 years. What the actual hell? He then asked if they've been actively sleeping together even after Mark's marriage, and he answered that they were. Then he pointed at me and said, "But I still love Ellie a lot, and also Ryan." But nothing of that mattered to his father. While we were waiting for them, he called his lawyer. Right in front of Mark, he announced to his lawyer the changed condition of his will. As classic as it can go, his father kicked Mark out of his will right there in front of him. Brutal, but you could believe it. Which meant Mark would not be getting the inheritance that would actually have helped us a lot, but that didn't matter to me. I did not care about what he had lost. I was happy. Then his dad announced that he would be replaced by my son and me. Mark full-on started crying. Even Sana bursted out crying, and I guess it was then that I realized that they had some plans for themselves. He got on his knee and started begging me to forgive him. I just shook my head and told him that even if there was any chance of me doing that, it was all over. There's no way that I could forgive him after he was caught in the act twice by his own son. Inspired by my father-in-law, I called my lawyer. We talked about divorce terms right in front of a sobbing Mark, and Ryan had now returned. He refused the idea of spending even a day with his dad if it were to win joint custody. He only wanted to be with me. He refused to look at his father because Sonia's parents were also present there. They did the same as Mark's dad had done, with no such savings or inheritance to have. I can confirm that they have nothing left to live on except whatever they earned through their job. And from what I knew, Sonia wasn't even working, which meant Mark would have to bear the burden. Not an issue for me. He did not seem too worried before sharing $1,000 to her account anyways. Then my lawyer reminded me of the prenup that we signed at the beginning of our marriage, and that was the final straw. Mark begged me not to kick him out of my house, so I did. I gave both Sonia and him the ultimatum to leave my premises within the next 24 hours, and I gave them that many hours mostly because Mark and Sonia's families looked like they were ready to go full blowout. So I took my son out of there, and behind me, the entire family blew up on the siblings. Good riddance, honestly. Guys, thank you for staying here so long and reading through this mess of a cheating husband story. I appreciate all the help I got from here. Top comments from the final update. My, what a spectacle. One could have easily avoided this drama with a dash of timely action. My dear, it seems victimhood is a cherished choice for some, leaving logic behind. Pray, what was the purpose of all this folly? A bit of intelligence goes a long way, it prevents such heartaches, and as for Mark, well, his history with Sonia predates you, and a point worth pondering on. Understanding, even in a distasteful matter, could have spared you this embarrassment. Quite a lesson, wouldn't you agree? Comment number 2. Dude, I'm seriously sorry you have to deal with that crap. Cheating's just juvenile, but doing it with his cousin? Major ew. Seriously, there should be laws against this stuff. It needs to stop. Like yesterday, I bet she's pregnant too. They probably sorted it out quietly, before all these get rid of the baby debates blew up. At least you got out of the mess, props to you. I'm still curious about what's going on with them though. Fingers crossed they're both miserable now. Well, indeed. It did not end well for Mark and Sana. At the same time, I think this is the first time on the channel we've not only had a cheating couple, but we had, somebody cheating with their cousin. Ew! Guys, this story was absolutely insane, almost unbelievable at some points. I just couldn't wrap my head around how this was happening for 8 years. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about this story. If you've ever been in a similar situation or know somebody who's done stuff like this, let me know your thoughts and your experiences down below in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito, and if you want more daily videos, super simple, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon, and you will get those daily stories. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.